Hello everybody and welcome back to the podcast. You are listening to Be Candid with your host, me, Amber. I hope you're all doing well. It's been a while. We've got some catching up to do. I'm actually not going to do that big of a deep dive into like life updates and what's been going on recently because there's been a lot going on, to be honest, and I kind of want to keep that as its own separate like life update, chatty, nitty gritty episode where I can deep dive into all of the super specific details, especially once they're like a bit more solidified, like completely confirmed, written in stone. I have photographic evidence and it is laminated, then I will feel a bit more comfortable sharing everything with you. But there's been a lot going on over on my end. I guess, is there like a mini update I could give you? It's been glorious weather. I'm English, I live in London. Gonna have to talk about the weather at some point, so let's get it over with. It's been lovely weather. It's been 29 degrees today. I unfortunately didn't get any of it because I just thought it would eventually end up in my garden, and back in like June it would get to about like I want to say like 1-2 o'clock and the sun would be in my garden. Absolutely great. So I thought, come what are we now, September, madness, come September I'll have like sunshine in my garden 24/7 because, you know, sun moves and what have you. No, the opposite has happened. My geography or maths or physics, something went wrong somewhere and I got the tilt of the axis wrong apparently, because there's now no sun in my garden. I get like a little glimmer of hope about 5 o'clock, which isn't ideal. So I actually didn't go out in the sun. I definitely could have if I wanted to. It was just me being lazy and holding a grudge that there was no sunshine in my garden. So that's been going on. The other update is that me and Christian have started playing tennis, which I'm not going to go to like elaborate on too far, but we've just done it. I think we've done it 2 times now, and I've borrowed my tennis rackets off of my stepdad, which thank God, because tennis rackets are so expensive. I had no idea, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll just get some, it'll be good fun, like a little activity for me and Christian to do, get us out of the house, get some exercise in there. It was just like a win-win-win-win-win situation, until I saw the price and I was like, okay, maybe I'm gonna have to reevaluate my life choices right now. But it was absolutely fine. We had some in the shed in the garden, so they're not being missed, but I do know I have to take care of them and we'll probably have to give them back at some point. I was also convinced I was going to be the next Andy Murray, Andrea Murray, Amber Murray, who knows. I was just going to be the next tennis all-star, and that also didn't happen. I had tennis lessons when I was maybe 7 or 8. Like, I was quite young because I still had... The best friend that I went with at the time was the very first best friend I ever had. So I know I was like quite little. But I remember really enjoying it and like really loving it. And it got to the point where my tennis coach was like, okay, cool, we're going to start putting you in competitions. And I was like, no, I don't want to do competitions. And that happened to me every time I started a childhood activity. That's probably a talk for another day. But anytime I used to do street dancing, I tried tap, I tried ballet, I did tennis. And as soon as anyone mentioned like, we're going to enter a tournament, we're going to do a competition, we're going to battle against another school, I was like, tapping out, get me out of there. There was an amber-shaped hole in the doorway because there's just something about that does not appeal to me. I was just doing it for fun, just wanted to do it after school as a little activity. But anyway, I just thought I'd rock up at the age of 23 and be this tennis all-star on the courts, like, watch out Clapham, here I come. But apparently not. Christian is far better than me. I think I have a very weak wrist because I'm unfit and my arm was hurting quite a bit. And I also can't aim for shit. So there's lots of improvement to be done, which is exciting. But like I said, it's just a little hobby, something to do on the side after work, which hopefully I will progress in. And hopefully at least once I'll beat Christian, because that would be really lovely. But we're still at the point where I'm not letting us keep score because I know it's just going to damage my ego too much. And I may never want to pick up another tennis racket. So that's where we're currently at. So I feel comfortable now. I feel like we've got chatty, you know, we've got to know each other a little bit. Caught up. How's your week been? Good to know. So to get into this week's episode, I'm going to be talking about things I no longer do in 2021. I love these subjects so much. Just like changing your mindset, picking up some healthy habits, and just I don't know, I think it really is like a shift in perception, which you'll see throughout like the list. I have notes written down. Just the perception, the shift of perception, like the shift in your mindset, just so that, I don't know, you treat yourself a bit better, you kind of know your worth a little bit more. And I think obviously that does come with age. I'm only 23, but I think from very early on, my mum kind of instilled this kind of like, you know, you're a woman, like you're going into like a man's world, but you have power, and like all of these really great things she kind of taught me. And also like, obviously we can't seem to go a single episode without talking about my relationship with money. If you haven't been around here for very long and you haven't listened to any of those episodes, I would urge you to go back and like maybe listen to some of those, just so you get a bit more of the context of where I'm coming from. But my kind of love-hate relationship with money has been a big one for me, which I feel like I'm evolving out of now, which is nice. So yeah, these are in no ways things that I'm like suggesting you do or pushing you to do, just little things that I think could be taken a second look at, maybe things to reconsider, or things for like, you know, now that everyone's talking about autumn already, bloody hell, it's 29 degrees, we're in September, everyone's talking about autumn, or fall if you're from across the pond. But eventually, one day soon, it's going to be New Year's. So if you need a new resolution, not that you necessarily have to wait for a new year for a resolution, you could start one on a Monday, tomorrow, if you really fancy it. If you're really that motivated, would not be able to relate to me, but if you're that motivated, why not do it, you know? So just some things to consider, but some things that I think are quite comical looking back on, like in hindsight, are quite funny. So I hope you enjoy them. We're gonna start off with a real banger. My number one. I no longer wear uncomfortable pants. Now, we're getting real deep and personal right now. This may seem like kind of a strange one, but for the longest time, obviously when you're a kid, you don't really think about your underwear. And then as soon as you get to, for me, I think it was like 14, 15, I was kind of like, oh, hang on, I can buy pretty underwear. I can buy briefs. I can buy thongs. I can buy G-strings. I can buy bikini cut and all of these kind of things. Like this whole new world was opened up to me. All these pretty colours, lace, satins, neoprene, like who knows what they're made out of, honestly. But for the longest time, I was just buying my underwear from like Primark and stuff because they're cute, had cute patterns. You could get a set, very affordable, which we all know. Amber, as a young student going on to university student, to be honest, I don't think I bought any new underwear during university because I was not spending an extra penny if I didn't have to. But I just bought cheap underwear and I just never really thought much of it. I was just like, oh, okay, cool, like that's done. Like for me, it was more about it being practical. Like sure, they looked cute, but they weren't necessarily the most comfy things, which now saying it makes me feel funny, honestly, because I would say like my whole style is comfort. If you're listening to this podcast over on your YouTube, you'll see me wearing a little white baby tee and some very stretchy, comfortable coloured trousers from Zara. And this is what I'm all about, like, give me comfort. So the fact that that didn't carry through into my underwear bewilders me. But I'm very happy to say it now does. So it doesn't necessarily mean like spending loads of extra money on underwear. I'm a sucker for a sale. So I'll just keep an eye out on like Urban Outfitters. I bought a few sets from Victoria's Secret. I bought some very cheap underwear actually in their sale. But it's honestly some of my favourite underwear because it just makes such a difference. Like it's so comfortable. It looks great. It feels nice. Like it feels expensive, which I like. Not necessarily spending that much, but to get that feel from it feels really good. Saying that now, I am actually wearing a Primark underwear set, but it was one of the like slightly more expensive underwear sets, and it's one that's like made of a really comfy material. It's not like a little lace G-string thing that's gonna cut me in all the wrong ways. It's like a little soft cotton bralette and like big pant kind of set, which I love because I feel so much more confident in it, more comfortable, and I think that kind of radiates out, and I'm not spending the whole day like trying to sit funny or like pull something out of where it shouldn't be. And it's just something that I think I will carry with me and just refuse to do. I'm not buying any cheap underwear for anyone. I'm sorry. I'm living a life of luxury. And like I said, it does carry through to bras as well. Not that I wear bras very often anymore, but I will usually opt for like a little comfy, unwired bralette if I can. Okay, switching up, I should probably say as well, this list is like not categorized, so we're going all over the board here, which I hope you don't mind, because we all know this podcast can be a little chaotic. She says as she's trying to swat away a bug in her bedroom. Go away. Okay, the next one, I no longer have all of my notifications on, and I don't know why it took me so long to do this. Probably, I think I got my new phone. I have an iPhone X, or like the iPhone 10 or whatever, and I got it very recently, like maybe back in May. I had an iPhone 6 for 5 years before that, so we've come a long way. You may have a newer phone than I do, but this to me is a upgrade, let me tell you. But for whatever reason, all my phones I ever had before, all my like appliances, whatever, had all of the notifications on for every app, everything, like all of the push notifications, all of the reminders, all of the, hey, so-and-so's posted something for the first time in a while, like all of them. I had all of them on. And I do think, honestly, my phone time has gone up since turning my notifications off, which I just think is probably a correlation between Instagram Reels and TikTok becoming a thing, so I'm now on my phone more. But it's so nice to be sat at dinner and not having my phone go off every 10 seconds with pointless notifications. Like, it wasn't like I had so many people messaging me because I'm so popular, so all my text messages were buzzing. It was like my calendar reminding me of a prompt coming up in 2 weeks, or my phone telling me that it had low storage or something. It was just like pointless notifications, which I really didn't need to know then and there. And I think as I'm getting older, I'm not seeing notifications that's like this fun thing that I get to check out. I'm seeing it as like a bit of a impeachment on my time. Like, I didn't invite that notification into my day, into that moment, and it's just sprung up on me, and like, it's unwelcome. Like, I don't want it there, so I've turned them off. And I've actually turned off the majority of my notifications. I think I've kept all of my messages on, like Instagram DMs are on, Facebook messengers on, text messages are on, but in terms of like Instagram likes, turn them off. Instagram comments, turn them off, just because it's not worth it. It's just there all the time otherwise, just from like random spam accounts. It's nothing necessarily meaningful, and I will go back and like purposely, intentionally, when I have set aside the time, go through and check those comments or those DMs or what have you. And I think it just works out a lot better, and I'm getting distracted a lot less in terms of like work and things like that. So yeah, I would really urge you actually to consider what notifications you need on or want on, and which ones you don't, and whether the ones you don't are actually ending up taking up a lot of your mental space, physical space, whatever it may be, because I've really enjoyed that. Similarly, I have also undownloaded Facebook, Twitter, and Snapchat from my phone. I'm sure there are other apps I had once upon a time which I no longer have, but again, I think it's the kind of thing of just like the constant checking and not really feeling much value from the app. Like on Snapchat, not really many of my friends had it anymore, and I preferred WhatsApping or Instagram DMs or whatever to communicate, so I just didn't really find the need for Snapchat. Got rid of that one. I got rid of Facebook a long time ago. I still check it actually on my PC, but it's usually I'm checking it to see if my dad has posted anything, or I'm checking Facebook groups of certain things. It's not really something like, I don't go to it and like scroll through if I'm waiting in line for a bus or anything. And I'm not sure if I ever downloaded the Twitter app. I must have once upon a time. I very rarely use Twitter. Again, I usually just go on it on my desktop computer if I have some downtime at work and I wanted to hear like the latest goss on Love Island or something. That's when I'll check Twitter, but otherwise I don't really use it. I find it a bit spammy with at least my Twitter. I just don't think, because it's so old and I barely use it, it's probably not very well edited, or like the people I follow have not been adjusted or what have you. I haven't followed anyone for like years or so. It's always it feels a bit of like a a time trap, I guess, going in there, because I'm like, oh, this was my life 5 years ago. So yeah, I don't have any of those downloaded. So maybe you could also consider what apps you do and don't need. I'm sure there's ones that I have on my phone actually, which I probably don't need, but just some, like, a few less things to worry about. Oh, I feel like this next one I've done for a while, and this is more of a shift in mindset, I guess, than the others. So things I no longer do in 2021. I no longer dwell on should have. So when something happens and I get it wrong and it's my fault, or someone, I don't know, took advantage of a situation, whatever like the scenario might be, I'm never like, oh my god, I should have done, like, I should have, like, it's, for me, I don't want to offend anyone here because I feel quite passionately about this, so I feel like I'm going to speak quite harshly and like directly on the matter, which I know can sometimes come across as a bit harsh and direct, but I'm really not trying to be. But yeah, instead of like, oh god, I should have done this, I've reversed it. I've kind of flipped it on its head, and now I just say, well, I'll know for next time. And I think some people find this quite annoying, and by some people I'm mainly talking about Christian, because sometimes he likes to like feel his emotions, which is fine, you like sit on them for a while, but I can't do that anymore. It frustrates me, that kind of feeling of like feeling crap. So whenever, like, I don't know, I parked in the wrong place and I got a parking ticket, instead of being like, oh my god, I should have parked here, or I should have paid for parking, I should have got the bus, I'll just be like, oh gosh, well, I'll know for next time. And for me, I don't know what it is, but I just find that to be such a more peaceful resolution from that scenario, because I've acknowledged it and I've learned from it, and I've like stored it in my brain bank for later. I'm like, okay, this is what happened, this is what went wrong, this is why it went wrong, and I'll know that for next time. So yeah, it's something I've really enjoyed. It gives me a lot of peace, it takes away a lot of stress. I guess if you looked at it in the wrong way, maybe seem quite abrasive or like impulsive or maybe reckless, but if you know me, you know that I don't really do much out of the ordinary, so I'm really not doing anything too reckless or like endangering anyone with this ethos or anything. It's just a way for me to be a bit gentler on myself and not beat myself up for things that are maybe out of my control or things that have already happened. So yeah, that's my little 2 cents on that one. Another one, which I guess could have a similar effect, I no longer worry what strangers think. And I think I did this a bit in like 2020, early 2020, maybe late 2019, just because I was still a student, so I think I still worried what other people thought of me a bit, because I feel like when you're in education or around that kind of like study setting and you have classmates and stuff, you want to be part of the pack, so you are kind of worried what others think of you. I think as soon as I graduated, and especially when lockdown hit, I was just like, fuck it. Like, life is unexpected. Life cannot be planned, which honestly screwed me up, because I am a planner through and through. My job, I'm like an event manager, event planner as a job is literally my career. I like to plan things, but you can't plan life, and I had that harsh reality. And so then it was kind of like, okay, well, if I can't plan life, if I can't monitor it every second of every day, I'm at least going to enjoy it. So that meant like singing in my kitchen and sunbathing topless and all of these kind of things, and like wearing what I wanted, all of these kind of things, just because I no longer cared if my next door neighbour heard me, or Jerry down the street didn't like my outfit, or some girl took a photo of what I was wearing because she thought, and sent it to her friend because she thought it was hilarious. Because I think I've just realised that the world is a huge place. There are so many people, and it's very unlikely that I'm going to have that much of an impact on every person I come across, or every person who may just briefly glance in my direction. And the truth of the matter is, I think obviously being in London, I have the privilege of, I'm going to try and say a word that I can never say, anonymity. Being anonymous is what I'm trying to say, because there are so many people here, and it's very rare that you bump into the same people multiple times. And if you do bump into the same people multiple times, it's very rare that you've spoken to them, or you know their name, or they're going to become a part of your life. It just doesn't happen very often here in London. And I have fully embraced that. And I think as long as I'm doing what I think is authentic to me, I'm not hurting anyone, I'm not disrupting anyone else too much, I'm not offending anyone, as long as I'm being kind and doing things that I think are fun, the people that I want in my life and I want to like me are gonna like me. And the people that maybe I wouldn't get on with, or who disagree with what I'm doing, or may have opinions that wouldn't get on with my opinions, aren't gonna like what I'm doing. And that's fine, because maybe they never would have liked what I was doing, and is not gonna impact me not knowing them, or like putting the pressure on myself to be liked by everyone is to me very unrealistic. So by being okay and not worrying about what other people think or strangers think, I think specifically strangers, because then I feel like it matters even less. It's just opened up like this whole new freedom and like carefree mindset of, okay, do you know what, I'm going to do it because I want to, or I think it's going to be fun. And it just takes a lot of the pressure away, like I said, from other people's opinions, and maybe doubting myself or second guessing myself, or trying to visualize myself through other people's eyes, because I think you can get really bogged down by that quite easily, and it can get quite overwhelming. So yeah, I'm just really enjoying kind of having a bit more freedom with that. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to cross this next one off. I put on my list that I no longer eat baked beans for dinner. I still eat them for lunch though. I think that's fine. I feel like baked beans are a lunch thing. But basically what I meant, this is going to sound like a really random statement. Basically what I meant was, back in university, again, you'll know this if you've hung around for a while, I would always eat baked beans at least once a day for like a lunch or a dinner. And I would put them in this plastic container, heat them up in the microwave, and just eat them like with a spoon out of this plastic container. Or if I couldn't be bothered to heat them up, I'd eat them cold out the tin. Now, before last week, I hadn't done this for a really long time, and it was great because I was kind of, prioritizing my health a bit more, buying better food, because just to put it in like numbers for you to get some statistics so you can really see the difference. Back at university, my weekly shop would be £11, like on the dot. I would spend £11 a week on food. Currently, I know this because I just did a grocery haul over on my YouTube channel. I spend £45 a week on my food. So that's what, quadrupled. It's more than quadrupled in the course of 4 years, which works out very nicely. But yeah, I would literally just eat baked beans for dinner. And I'd been doing really well with like having proper meals, really enjoying it. And then I can't remember why it happened. I think we had a couple of days of not having much food in the cupboard, and we were about to go somewhere, so there wasn't much point of us doing a full shop. So I said to Christian, oh, just get me a packet of beans from the corner shop or whatever. He got me like a full pack of baked beans. And when it's been a hotter weather and I've been kind of lazy, and I've been trying to make my diet a bit more gluten-free because my eczema's been flaring up, I have been eating baked beans out the tin again, but I kind of like it. It's kind of become a bit nostalgic for me, and I guess it is different because it's not out of a weird money-saving pressure that I'm putting on myself. It's just out of a desire to eat baked beans out the tin. But yeah, basically what I'm trying to say in that statement, I guess, is I'm prioritizing the food that I'm putting into my body, and I'm not putting this immense... I guess I'm no longer making a relationship between my money and my nutrition. That's probably a great way to put it. I'm putting more of an investment into the food I buy and the ingredients I'm putting into my meals and stuff. And I think, obviously, it goes without saying that it's made a huge difference in terms of my energy levels, my skin. Obviously, my eczema's like cleared up so much. All of those kind of things, which I just think are really important, and is something that I would never have considered doing like 3 or 4 years ago. It's definitely been a new shift, and I think it will continue to grow as I develop into more of an adult, learn how to cook more meals and like experiment with different ingredients and stuff. I'm sure that number will continue to grow up, but I don't feel... Did I say the number will continue to go up? But I don't feel guilty about it, which is really nice. So that one's probably definitely more of a personal thing I no longer do in 2021. You may not be able to relate to that, but that's absolutely fine. The next one I have also done recently. Am I a fake? But I think this one is true as well. I no longer take midday naps. As a student, we keep going back to it, but I was only a student last year, so it wasn't that long ago. I used to nap all the bloody time, and I don't know if it was because like university was physically exhausting or emotionally exhausting. I did not have the best like university experience in my first couple of years. I only had 8 hours of lecture a week. So obviously usually you worked like a 40-hour work week traditionally. I only had 8 hours, so I had a lot of downtime, and I spent a lot of it watching Grey's Anatomy and having a nap. And I think what I liked in first year about napping during the day was that it took up a chunk of my day and meant that I wasn't lonely because I was asleep and unconscious, which obviously isn't the healthiest mindset to have, and obviously looking back I am well aware of that. And then I think during lockdown, I think it was just a comfort thing of not having much to do, watching TV in bed. I would fall asleep, and I think I was quite tired in like the last place we live. I feel like I spent a lot of time talking about how tired I was, and actually after our move I seeked out like professional opinion. I went to the GP because I was so tired, and I thought I could be anemic because my mum was anemic and I wasn't, which was like good to know. But yeah, there was never any kind of reason, or like they didn't diagnose me with anything or give me any reason as to why I might be feeling that. I had recently obviously moved house and started a new job, so I think it might have just been like a stress relief, or the stress was just making me very tired. And now I feel like I'm in a much better place where I get tired a lot less. I think I sleep a lot less as well, like during the night. Like I don't have as long a sleep as I once did. Like I would happily sleep for like 12-13 hours. I think I've got it down to like 9 hours now, which is a bit better. So yeah, I'm no longer taking midday naps, and I actually had a nap last week. It might have been, was it yesterday? No, I think it was last Friday. I was working, but my work has been very slow paced, so I was actually watching Netflix whilst working, in quotation marks, and fell asleep on the sofa. But it wasn't an intentional, like, I'm gonna go upstairs and get into bed and under the duvet to have a nap. It was just like oops, I guess I've fallen asleep. So yeah, I no longer have midday naps. The next one is completely false. I wrote these statements like a month ago, I want to say, when I was like, I was on a deep planning mode. I was like planning everything out. I no longer spend hours scrolling, but since then I've downloaded TikTok, so I definitely do. Sorry. Good one. The next one. I no longer, and this is very new, I want to say within the last like 3-4 months, I no longer feel tied to family obligations. I think it's come with getting older, having our own house that we rent, being comfortable and confident in mine and Christian's relationship, and kind of starting our life here in London, that we have our own things going on. And I don't necessarily feel the same pressures I once did to attend every family get-together, be there for every family occasion, go on holidays with my family, whatever it is. As nice as they are, and I'm very lucky that I have the opportunity to do that and hang out with my family, I don't feel guilty for not doing it, which has been quite nice. I think I've, I guess in that sense, been prioritising myself a little bit more and listening to what brings me joy and what maybe doesn't, because I think a lot of times we go to family occasions and stuff out of obligation and out of guilt and out of, well, I should do it, so I will. But I think I'm maybe being a bit selfish, but if there's a certain situation that I'm like, you know what, it's actually going to be a lot of money for me to come down, it's one meal or like one dinner, it's not that important that I be there, there are going to be other people there, like blah, blah, blah. I don't necessarily feel the same sense of guilt. Like, I have stuff going on, I have my own life, and if I have to kind of prioritize that as well, because I have a lot going on up here. And I think it's hard sometimes for your family to realize that, especially if you're like freshly graduated or you just moved out or whatever. I think I've been moved out for a while, so it's probably been a transition that's been happening for a long time, not just a couple of months. But it's hard for, I think, parents to understand that, like, what your life is like outside of their house or your local area or what have you, because they only really see you in that area, so they can like quite easily forget that you have your own set of responsibilities and friends and jobs and clients and stuff up where you now live. So I'm happy that I feel like a little bit more of a detachment from that. I'm saying this like kind of hesitantly because I know I will still definitely be travelling down to see my family and hang out and go to family functions, so I don't want to seem hypocritical. But I know, for example, my dad's side of the family recently had like a barbecue get together, just like because it was sunny, and I didn't feel the need to travel down because I had recently seen my dad. I'd recently come down to Bournemouth, and it didn't align with like how we'd planned out our weekends and for the next coming months, so I didn't make the trip. And I expressed that, and I felt fine about it because it was my decision, and I didn't feel that I should feel guilty for it because my reasons were completely valid, and I have a right to choose how I spend my time, who with, and how I go about that with my family, which is completely fine. So it's definitely been a transition, like probably since I first started moving out and like moved to London to go to university. I'm sure there obviously were some like birthdays and things I've missed, but I think maybe it's because my family are getting better at it as well. I just feel like it's not as important. Like, for example, another example is my mum's birthday in 9 days. So happy birthday, Mum, when you were listening to this. But I'm not going down for her birthday because I have other stuff that I need to be doing. And she was completely fine about it, which obviously makes it easier on me because I'm sure if she felt really upset, then I would feel guilty and probably go down. But it's just one of those things that I think as you become an adult and get your own family and have more and more things, that I think as you get older your responsibilities only grow, that transition will have to happen at some point. So it's nice to kind of start to get into that mindset and the swing of things now. Oh, this next one is a good one. I no longer hang out with people who make me feel bad. And this isn't necessarily to say that before I was hanging out with really nasty people, but sometimes I think it was probably just me getting more in tune with my feelings and how I left certain situations feeling. But there would be certain scenarios where I hung out with someone and then afterwards I felt a bit crap, or like I'd given a lot of energy and not gotten much back, or I don't know, that they judged me on something that didn't really sit very well with me, or the topics we talked about weren't feeding me, or like were kind of dragging me back to a place that I didn't want to talk about, or I don't know, were just topics that I wasn't really interested in anymore, whatever it might be. I no longer really hang out with those people. And I'm not saying like I have cut them out my life, or it's just like this cut and dry situation. I'm not being super cutthroat or anything. But it's just like if I have some spare time or a weekend and I'm like, hey, I could hang out with someone this weekend, I'll usually opt to hang out with someone that makes me feel good about myself and I get energy from, and I feel really great after we've hung out and we bring each other up rather than down. Like I'd much rather hang out with that kind of person. And it's still a situation in terms of like finding those people and building new relationships and seeing how they play out and making new connections with people, or having friends of friends that may or may not be those people. So I think it's always going to be an evolving thing, but just something to be mindful of as I'm making those new connections, I guess. And yeah, like I said, perhaps if someone got in touch and was like, oh, do you want to like grab a drink or go for a coffee or whatever, I may do. But if I have that feeling of like, actually I think this is only going to take away from me. I don't think I'm going to get anything out of this situation. I think in my current mindset, it would be unlikely that I would like accommodate that or entertain that idea, just because I kind of know now that like what I'm looking for out of my personal connections and my friendships, and just prioritizing myself a little bit more. I think it's very easy, especially when you're young as like a teenager and stuff, to have relationships which aren't two-way, like where you're not being used, but maybe like taking advantage of a little bit for the things you do and all the things you give and your kindness and your generosity and all of those kind of things. And I think as you get older, you kind of realize the dynamics of different relationships, I guess would be a good way to put it, and especially how those affect you. And I think that can be super, super important. I actually did like a whole episode on toxic friendships, just because I think it is something that's very prevalent in your early 20s, or like throughout university, or as you're leaving university, becoming a fresh graduate. I think it's super important to think about. So that is something I'm no longer doing in 2021. I couldn't not do this episode without saying that I no longer buy new clothes. I've probably said it quite a lot, like across my Instagram and my YouTube and stuff. But in 2020, me and my boyfriend made a resolution, or like a pact, not to buy any new clothes. We put money on it, like we are not buying new clothes in 2020. And I was I was going to say happily, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that it was really fun and a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. And I actually take quite a lot of pride now in the fact that a lot of my wardrobe, the majority of my wardrobe, is thrifted, and I think it makes the pieces so much more special. I was going to talk you through my outfit, but my outfit right now is all thrifted, but all the pieces I got were online through Vinted secondhand. But I much prefer... This is the thing, I really enjoy thrifting in person, and I think charity shopping and stuff is when you find true gems and really exciting pieces that you never would have found otherwise, and they can have a real good story to them. But it's very time consuming, and sometimes you can come away with not a lot because your charity shopping's not always going to be successful, whereas charity shopping online or thrifting online is always going to be successful because you can always filter it and put in your size and exactly what you want. Like these trousers I'm wearing, I wore a pair identical to this from Zara, exactly the same cut and shape and colours, back in 2018. Me and my girlfriends went to Ibiza. My friend Jada had these trousers. I wore them out, absolutely loved them. And here I am, 3 years later, and I searched them on Vinted and they bloody came up in my size, and I added them to my basket and I haven't taken them off since. And that's great, and like that never would have happened at charity shop. But I do love charity shopping. I really want to go, like, kind of soon. I've been buying some more transitional pieces for moving into autumn off of Vinted. And I've recently hosted some shows over on Galaxy where I, like, sell all my clothes. Usually my thrifted clothes, because I don't have much new anymore. And I've just really been enjoying it. We started doing it mostly for the environmental factor. And I honestly do believe like every style already exists out there, and there are more than enough clothes in the world that exist right now to clothe the entire nation, the entire world, shall we say. So I don't think it's necessarily needed for me to go out and buy things from like Pretty Little Thing and Nasty Gal and all of those things, because I can find them online for probably cheaper, which is also nice because I get to save some money. But every now and then I will buy something new. Like, I know for my birthday in October, my mum has got me a pair of jeans from Abercrombie, which I'm very excited about because I haven't had a new pair of jeans in probably like 4 years' time, because all my jeans I buy secondhand as well. So it's just going to be really nice to have a really special, nice pair of jeans which I can properly like wear in from new. But that's something that I've, made that kind of purchase or that request, I guess, with an intention behind it. So I'm very at peace with that decision. Like, that's absolutely fine. But for whatever I can, for the most part, I do thrift my wardrobe, and I really enjoy it just as like a little bit of a hobby more than anything. So that's something that I still haven't done in 2021. Oh, new thing that I no longer do. I no longer drink cow's milk. And I don't know why it took me so long to jump on the kind of like oat milk, almond milk, soy milk bandwagon. But I think it was just out of laziness, honestly. Like, I have always drunk cow's milk from like a very young child, all throughout my teen years. It was just always what was in my house, and so it's just what I bought. Like, I think that happened with a lot of things, like the things you eat in your childhood home, you end up eating like as a student and as an adult and everything like that. And I didn't really think twice about it. I'm not sure why. It just wasn't on my radar. And then I was actually watching a YouTube video. It was a vlog by Flossie, and she was saying she was making coffee and she put almond milk in it. She was like, if you're still drinking cow's milk, you need to reevaluate your life choices or something. It was just like really blunt throwaway statement that she made. Like, she was just like, what are you doing if you're still drinking cow's milk? And then I just kind of sat with it for a second. I was like, hang on, what am I doing? And I think in my head, almond milk and oat milk was really hard to get and really expensive, which is so not the case. Like, you can get it in the same aisle. It's like 10p more expensive. If you get like brand ones, I'm sure the store own ones are probably the same, very similar price. And it's funny because now in my childhood home, they now have oat milk and almond milk and all of that. So I was late to the party. Like, my family had adjusted before I did. I just think, again, it's one of those kind of like environmental things. Oh, again, for my body as well. Like, I shouldn't be drinking or eating as much dairy as I do. I still haven't given up cheese. I haven't gotten to that point. But I can happily take a step back from cow's milk. So that's been an interesting one. And just one that I was surprised took me as far as 2021 to realise. Oh, this next one is a good one as well. Back a couple of years ago, I loved scatter cushions. I had as many cushions as I could. Now, I have 3 cushions. And I just don't see the need for them anymore. I think my style type or choice has really changed. I think it goes with the same for like my fashion style, in the sense of just like comfort, 2 pieces, easy to throw on, like practical. I think that's now following through with my house design and house style. I think before I think because I was thrifting as well, I would really enjoy like being super eclectic and just having a lot of things and a lot of stacked bookshelves. And maybe it's since moving to this house and having a lot less space, because our house is quite small, that I've had to kind of downsize on some of my eclectic collections that I've been building. And I don't really see the need to have like 50 scatter cushions on my bed, to take them off to get into bed and then to put them back on in the morning. Like, it's so much easier just to waft the duvet, lie it out nice and straight, have a very cute duvet cover. I think that's replaced my cushion obsession. I'm now a sucker for a good duvet set. But I no longer need all of these additional things. I'm quite happy with, I guess, not the bare minimum, because I still have like candles and some cute coasters and things, but I don't need to be popping by the charity shop every week and buying everything that everyone else is throwing out. It's a bit unnecessary. Oh, this is a good one. I have 2 more. So the next one, I no longer feel the need to reply right away. I used to be a sucker for this. I think I almost made it like part of my personality, like a personality trait. I was always like, oh yeah, I'm really quick at replying. I'm really good at replying. And I think that's just because I always have my phone on me, and I don't know, when the message popped up, I would just like reactively respond. And I think that's the key word. I was doing it as a reaction. Like, I was reactively living my day replying to those messages. And I think the same thing happened with the notifications. Like, I would get the notification and then I would react to it, and I would go on my phone and I would respond or whatever. So kind of in the same sense, I no longer do that, because if someone messages me, absolutely fine, but I'm going to reply when I have the time to do it, and when I have set aside that time in my day, or I have intentionally made that time to reply to that person. Because the thing with messaging, which I always find weird, like when someone calls you, you choose to answer it. Or I guess even further than that, like when you go to meet up with someone, you arrange a time and you schedule that time in. When someone calls you, when someone messages you, they're messaging you on their time. They're not messaging you on your time, which is something I actually learned from, I think it was a Skinny Confidential podcast episode. Michael had this kind of ethos where he doesn't like emails because people email you on their time and then they say, I need this by the end of the day. And he kind of goes, or like, I need this in the next half an hour. And he goes, no, you don't. Like, is anyone going to die if I don't give this to you in the next half an hour? No. So I'll give it to you when I'm ready. Like, I'll give it to you when I've got it. When I've set aside the time to do it well and I can give it to you then, I will. And I think that's so much better because, I don't know, it just feels a bit more meaningful, a bit more mindful. And it doesn't feel like people are taking away parts of my day, or that I'm being pulled in all these different directions, because I'm taking control of my time throughout the day and how I'm spending it, which I think just gives me a little bit more, I was going to say a word and the word has just completely escaped me, like a little bit more authority, I guess, on how I spend my day, which I've really been enjoying. And I think, again, it's just taking back some of that control, which is really nice. So the last thing, oh my gosh, I've spoken for so bloody long. This last thing is kind of fun, and I think I could honestly do a whole episode on this, so I'll talk briefly on it. I no longer scrimp on things that I use every day. So what I mean by this is, like, I no longer buy budget items that I know I'm going to have in my life for a long time, or that I'm going to use multiple times a day, multiple times a week. And I think this kind of ties in with the episode I did on romanticising your life, which was a very popular episode. You guys really liked that one. But for example, like the journal I have next to my bed, I bought a really nice journal from Etsy. To be fair, it was only £4, but I could have quite easily gone to Sainsbury's or just like used some paper from my printer to scribble down notes on. But because I know I'm going to use it multiple times a week, if not daily, it's going to be the last thing I see before I go to bed. I want it to have nice paper. I want it to feel nice. I want it to look cute on my bedside table. I was happy to spend a little bit more, or spend some more time finding one that sparked a bit more joy in my day. And I think as a student, again, being on a budget, that is something that is quite a privilege, I guess, or something I just never considered before, because I would probably just write on scrap paper, if I'm honest. I'd probably be writing on bloody toilet paper if I could. If it was cheaper than paper, I would be writing on toilet paper, because I was doing whatever I could to save every single penny. Whereas now that I have a bit more freedom with my money, I have like a tiny bit of money like left over from my salary where I can spend that money how I like. I'm now enjoying spending those things on things that bring me joy every single day. So, for example, my boyfriend bought us some really cool husky cups. We saw them at our local coffee shop and really liked them. And they're not the cheapest cup in the world, but like by any means. But I love it so much. I use it every day, multiple times a day. It's a really cute beige colour. It's the perfect size. Sometimes it matches my outfit, which I absolutely love. Like if I was drinking from it right now, it like matches one of the shades in my trousers. So that would be really fun. And it just makes the whole experience of drinking a coffee far more enjoyable, which I think before, like, again, I'm probably talking for way too long, it's very easy to snooze on those moments. Like having a cup of coffee for some people is a necessity, you know, it's just part of your day, part of your morning routine, doesn't need to be thought of for more than a second. But what if you did think about it for more than a second? What if there was a way you could elevate that a tiny bit? Like me and my obsession with duvet sets. I really enjoy coming upstairs to a clean room and having a pretty duvet cover on my bed. Again, I like it to be soft. I'm going to be lying in it for probably 9 to 10 hours. It's going to be the first thing I see in the morning, the last thing I see before I go to bed. And it would be fun if it was cute, and it would make me feel good every time I saw it. So why wouldn't I spend a little bit more? Like I just bought a gingham duvet set from H&M, which was £35, and that is the most I have ever spent on a duvet set. I don't think it's anything mad. Like there are definitely some duvet sets are like hundreds of pounds. I had no idea. So yeah, I don't think it's anything groundbreaking, but it's again something I never would have done before this year. And I think obviously part of that comes with my increase in salary, so I'm increasing my spending in other places, but also I think I'm prioritizing bits of my house and parts of my day that I necessarily wouldn't have thought of before. And I'm sure some of that comes from like working from home and being stuck inside all day with COVID and everything, where I'm kind of thinking about my space a bit more than I used to, or how I spend my day more than I used to. But it's been really fun to kind of take those things and reevaluate them and redesign them in a way that sparks a bit more joy and brings a bit more light and fun into my day and just makes me feel bloody good. So yeah, that's going to be it for this episode, because I've spoken for far too long and it's 10:30 and I should probably get my PJs on and read a book before I go to bed. But I hope you enjoyed it, wherever you are, whatever time you're listening to this. Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I knew it was going to be a good one because I had so many notes on it, and some of the statements in my notes I was super passionate about, and I feel like when that happens I end up speaking for a very long time very quickly and I get all hot and flustered, which I currently am. So it must have been a good one. But if you have enjoyed this episode, please leave a review over on Apple Podcasts. It just really helps other people find the podcast, which I would really love. And it's always fun to see what you guys think. If you have any more like detailed things you want to say, you want to ask me any questions, you want to comment about anything I've said in today's episode, go ahead over to our Instagram page at To Be Candid Podcast, and you can DM me on there, send me send me a post, tag me in your posts if you're listening, if you're sharing anything. Would love to see it. I've really tried to make the Instagram page like a really fun mood board of like pinks and all things like lovely and fun, again, just to be that little pocket of the internet that can bring a little bit more light into your day. So I hope that's how you see it, and I hope you enjoy it, and I will be back very soon with another episode, so I hope to speak to you then. Bye.